Hello and welcome to A Taste of Landline. I'm Pip Courtney. Coming up today, growing Scottish Highland beef in Australia.
It's going to dissolve all that fat, it's going to keep it juicy, but most of all, there's going to be a lot of deep flavour from that grass-fed animal.
Mountain biking brings new life to an old mining town.
The wilderness out here is just amazing, and it's great to showcase it to the world.
And native oils.
The naturals isn't a buzz, it's here to stay.
5 years ago, the tiny town of Derby in northeast Tasmania was on its last legs. Now the old tin mining town is booming, and it's all down to mountain biking. The old town of Derby in Tasmania's fertile northeast was dying. The region's traditional industries of agriculture and forestry had suffered big hits with the closure of a vegetable processing plant and 2 timber mills.
Derby was a ghost town. We were down to one business and that was run by council, so the Tin Centre Council owned that. And there would be days when the Tin Centre would turn over less than $100 a day.
But something hiding in plain sight kick-started an extraordinary economic revival. The magic ingredient? Hero dirt. What is hero dirt?
Hero dirt would be like the equivalent of a powder day for a skier. It's basically when the dirt is just perfect. It's not too dry, it's not too wet. You get really good grip in the turns and everything's just rocking.
Oh, they're absolutely world class, world class. I've ridden quite a few places, Queenstown, Rotorua, over in the States, and these are as good as any of those, if not better.
Mountain biking has experienced a phenomenal rise in popularity in Australia, with over 1 million bikes sold last year. There have never been so many clubs, trails or riders.
You've got your XC guys, which are more of a cross-country sort of sport, and then you've got free ride, which is just people out having fun, a bit more jumps and freestyle kind of aspect. You've got downhill racing, which is like hardcore down the mountains racing. There's lots of different aspects of mountain biking, and it's accessible for everyone from kids right through to old people like me.
Riders happily travel in search of top trails, and they spend.
What we're talking is a really high-yielding visitor. They are the tourists that you want. There is no limit to what they will spend.
Derby's now one of the globe's hottest mountain bike destinations, with more than 30,000 visitors last year. The rebirth of the once prosperous mining town of 3,000 started in 2013, when several mountain bike fans approached the Dorset Council. If you build trails, they said, riders will come. Council General Manager Tim Watson is a mammal, a middle-aged man in Lycra. This was a new tribe for him.
Initially I was pretty sceptical because I didn't know a lot about it. I was a road cyclist, but I didn't understand mountain biking. And then I had a closer look at it, and then I realised it was a good thing. The total project came in just under $3.1 million. So it's a premium quality product, and if you want great trails, you have to spend the money.
A lot of things went right for the Dorset Council. Forestry Tasmania, the land manager at the time, supported having trails in a working forest. There were no bureaucratic blocks.
That's probably the difference between us and other areas of Australia, because typically to find this natural beauty, you'd be in national parks or state reserves, and we didn't have that problem.
Designer Glenn Jacobs was given a blank canvas and asked to deliver Flow. It's a mountain biking thing.
It's not having any qualms other than focusing on the trail in front of you that's flowing up and down, that's twisting between trees. And if you lose concentration and your mind wanders, you might end up in the bushes. So it's a really Beautiful thing to channel your thoughts and energy into just what's in front of you.
The trails are for the 78 percenters.
They're the families, they're the 50-plussers. Mountain biking is a really diverse activity. There's actually a larger volume of people who are out there enjoying it at a more tame pace.
Like South Australian mates Peter South and Malcolm Pearce.
Yeah, Mal's got me covered by about 12 months. He's 70 and I'm 69, so yeah.
You're an inspiration.
Well, he's
silly, we've been called.
Righto, crew.
One of the earliest investors in Derby were Buck and Jude Gibson.
Now, who's not loaded on this trailer before?
None of us. Well, 4 of us.
4. Rightio, I'm going to give you the demo.
They run a bike hire business and shuttle riders to and from the trails. They started in a shed in the Trailhead car park.
Just really gently rest the back wheel in at the slot. Jude would sit there, I'd be running the bus up to the new trail, which is called Atlas. So I had one trail which we used to operate on, and that's how we started.
Buck says riders are stunned by the scenery, which ranges from the snowy subalpine to valley forests of man ferns.
And you'll ride along the plateau, and then all of a sudden you ride down into this really dense, dark myrtle forest. It is really, really stunning up there.
It's like someone spray painted green moss on everything. The trees, the ground, the rocks, underneath the water in the little creek. It's just amazing.
It's a special place, yeah.
One of the most popular trails is the Blue Derby, which conveniently ends at the hub, which is 20 minutes out of Derby. The Worldborough pub was recently bought by a group of old school friends, and they've given it a makeover.
And could you be in a better position right at the end of the trail?
It's perfect, absolutely perfect. Everyone comes for lunch.
So they're either thirsty or hungry or both?
Both.
Yes,
both.
Or need accommodation.
Yep.
The kitchen's gone from serving 40 meals on weekends to flat strap.
Hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a Saturday and a Sunday lunchtime.
We've already done a few Saturdays of 178 lunches and the season hasn't really got going yet. So
We could be in trouble. Here we go. Our bookings are increasing all the time, and going forward we're looking at perhaps putting some demountable cabins in the camping ground, which will allow people to have their own amenities.
Our interstate and international visitors staying on average about 4.5 nights in Derby and 10 nights in total in Tasmania. So the benefit to Tasmania, it's not just in this northeast corner, but spreading right across the state. And our estimate is the economic impact on Dorset is about 15 to 18 million, Tasmania 30 million plus.
The town is desperate for more beds. There are now more than 30 Airbnbs and a range of new accommodation is being developed. Keen mountain biker Ben Jones and his wife Anastasia moved from Sydney. They're building a lodge which can sleep 12.
Do you want the sink to go to the centre of that window?
Yeah, I think so. All good.
I saw the money that the government are putting into it and decided that, you know, I want to put my money in there too and back them. And I personally, at riding the trails myself, believe that, you know, Blue Derby is pretty special.
They lived in mountain biking mecca Whistler in Canada for 4 years and can see what Derby can be. Ben says Derby is like the best mountain bike and ski villages. The trails all link into the town.
You know, it's not like you have to get in your car and drive 20 minutes out of town, get your bike off the roof, ride. It's sort of like come to Derby and leave your car in the driveway and just ride for days.
The trails have had a positive impact on local teens.
They're being told by a lot of our visitors, they're saying, you are so lucky to live here. And it's something that their parents never ever heard, never. And these kids are hearing it and you can just see the pride that they've got in their town. And so they want to be here, they want to live here, they want to work here, and they want to be a part of the action.
What we're actually seeing, and I didn't envisage this when we started the project, is we're getting young families moving into the area. Now, what regional town in Australia wouldn't want that happening in their patch?
Mountain bikers have got energy and enthusiasm, and they bring an energy to a town, and that was what I was hoping would happen, and it has happened.
Stir fries, ice creams, you can make little bunny nut chips. So you can do all sorts of different stuff with it. So it's just adding a new ingredient and a new palette to people's food. Put it like that, and that's yours.
Hi, I'm Christy O'Brien in Darwin. There's been a renewed surge in the popularity of oils derived from plants, and Australian farmers are reaping the rewards. It's benefiting not only traditional industries like tea tree and lavender, but also those harvesting Indigenous ingredients. As far back as colonisation, the oils derived from our vast backyard were swiftly recognised as a commodity, none more so than the famous Australian eucalyptus. From 1852, the trees were being harvested and distilled as the popularity of Australian eucalyptus took off around the world. But it all went on the decline as wild harvesting became unprofitable and artificial substances started to take over. Nowadays, it seems the natural way is the only way for some, as oils stake a renewed claim in the health and well-being world, whether it be the promise of a cure, calming aid or perfumes.
The naturals isn't a buzz, it's here to stay.
Deanne Prather's family started growing tea tree in northern New South Wales 23 years ago and is reaping rewards from the resurgence in the oils trade. But while Down Under essential oils might spend thousands ensuring the seeds produce the properties they need, it's an industry plagued by copycat products that aren't the real deal. There's been increased policing by the consumer protection authorities in a number of countries against synthetic and fake essential oils.
Somebody starts buying what they think is tea tree oil and it's adulterated and it doesn't work, or even worse, it hurts them because it's been adulterated, then that's going to have negative consequences for the tea tree industry, and as the same with any essential oil.
She says Australia's high quality standards and ethical production mean an awful lot to consumers, especially abroad, where 92% of their business goes. Judith and Michael Bastille grow lavender at Crystal Brook Farms near Canberra. It's an essential oil that Australia hasn't necessarily dominated in, but chilly ACT conditions are conducive to growing the crop.
We are in the process now of having some of the lavender being 13, 15 years old, of replacing the lavender to maintain it as a prominent crop.
The couple have learnt a lot from extensive study tours to France, arguably one of the leading experts in the art of lavender distillation.
And on those tours, we made decisions about what we were going to grow, what sort of a still might produce oils that would match the international standards for the different oils. I think there is a move towards natural therapies. A lot of the people that come here to buy our products especially the Asians, are looking at stuff they've found out about where they can use lavender.
Away from the lavender fields of Canberra and in the tropical heat of the Northern Territory, native plants and trees appear to be the next hot ticket item in the oil trade. Australian blue cypress has been used by the Tiwi Islands people for centuries. The plant crushed for ailments and daily life right across northern Australia. But 25 years ago, former tour guide Vince Collins found oil could be derived from the bark.
Okay, but this, as you go up, okay, it gets thinner. Okay, you get down the bottom, it's quite thick. Okay, but it's that part there that's important. When I was at Dookie Ag College, I'd always been fascinated with essential oils. And I thought it was possibly an industry that this should be looked at, which was Australian blue cypress, which is now being marketed to the world. There was also the first time it was ever done, that was the distillation of the bark and wood together, which creates the blue oil.
It's quite a syrupy, yeah. Wow.
The product has been picked up by the aromatherapy community, and tests are being conducted at several Australian universities to establish any medicinal qualities. After a quarter of a century tinkering with the blue liquid, Vince Collins is now finally seeing the fruits of his labour.
I can't keep up. It's just been, oh my God, there's another order. One year I sold 90 kilos, it wasn't much. I had to get a job to keep myself going. But now, I can employ people. It's been a really steep growth in demand.
It's ultimately these native products that are where many in the industry see a huge future. Indigenous landowners too are starting to see their knowledge of ancient remedies and bush herbs could become the next big thing. And there's plenty of businesses who'd like more native oils on their books.
To think that we have these amazing essential oils that are produced that are native to Australia and the therapeutic benefits, and if we can get the word out there and get people to understand how they can use these oils, and not just tea tree, but there are so many other amazing Australian essential oils, it's very exciting when the global opportunity is opening up.
Nice little crocodile bait. Never smile at a crocodile.
Hello, I'm Fiona Breen. The couple you're about to meet swapped city life for the country and a small beef farm here in Tasmania's Derwent Valley. They took a leap into the great unknown with a herd of Scottish Highland beef, and they haven't looked back.
Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on!
Incredibly steep paddocks have inspired this vocal roundup. A biscuit of hay and a lot of yelling gets these long-haired, long-horned cows running. Beck Lind is a tree changer, a returnee to her home community in Tasmania's Derwent Valley. Her picturesque property at Plenty sits beside the upper reaches of the Derwent River. This is what she loves: horses, cattle, dogs and rural life. And now these unique Scottish Highland cattle.
I've always been drawn to living on the land, but I'd never really had an opportunity to do that since I left home when I was about 15. So it's definitely, I guess you could say it's in my blood but I certainly don't have an agricultural background. We had an enthusiastic hobby farming family, but we certainly didn't have, what you would call a farm.
She says it was the best move she ever made. After returning to Tasmania and moving onto the farm, Beck Lind also met her fiancé and now partner in the farming dream, Beck Tudor.
I've lived in Tasmania 15 years. I chose to come here because I love the Tasmanian environment. So environment and animals have always been a passion for me. It's just that I haven't had as full an expression of that until living here on the farm with Beck.
Beck and Beck, as they're fondly known by locals, initially introduced Scottish Highland cattle to the property to help keep the pasture and forest scrub under control. The surprisingly nimble animals thrived on the steep slopes.
There's not many other farmers that would look at this and think it was a perfect beef country, because it's the side of a steep hill. We're 90 metres at the bottom and we're up over 400 metres above sea level at the top, and it goes back pretty quick within 2 kilometres. So it's really, the Scottish Highland cattle are perfectly suited to that.
They didn't set out to breed cattle for beef, but from a couple of cows they've built a 100-strong herd of these distinct animals. And surprisingly, the lethal-looking horns didn't turn them off.
I guess it's more just about learning about the animal and really understanding low-stress stock handling and just letting them take their time. Like, we don't have an electric prodder or anything like that. We put them in the yards and, we give them a reasonable opportunity to get used to the way that we handle them.
It's slow food in the truest sense of the word. The animal takes longer to mature, and they don't process until they're about 4 years of age. That's twice the age of most other beef breeds when they're sent to the abattoir.
These guys, they're browsers, not just grazers, so they really get in and they eat bark off trees sometimes. You'll see them eating all sorts of weeds, and you'll see them eating all sorts of native pasture that other cattle wouldn't generally get the chance to eat. So they take on a real, a flavour of their environment.
The couple launched this rich, old-fashioned beef into the market 2 years ago, selling direct to the public and a few high-end restaurants.
We actually don't differentiate between the cuts. So with us, you'll pay the same price per kilo across the whole beef. So whether you're buying eye fillet, mince, sausages, or Scotch fillet, you're paying the same price across the whole animal. And we use that pricing structure to really tell the story that we don't grow secondary cuts on the cows.
What they really pride themselves on here is that this is truly a nose-to-tail operation. Every single part of the animal is used, even the skull, the hide and the horns.
For us, it's not just about the meat and the cuts, it's also about the hides. So we do retain the hides, and we work with a grandfather-granddaughter team up at Hadsburn to have those hand-tanned here in Tasmania.
The hides are proving so popular, most of these fluffy pelts are pre-sold.
Hey Rodney, nice to see you.
How are you?
Hey,
Thanks for having us.
How are you?
Today, however, it's all about the meat. Beck and Beck are conducting one of their regular chef tours. Rodney Dunn and Ali Curry-Vumar are from the Valley's top restaurant, named by the Good Food Guide as Australia's best regional restaurant.
They're a very stocky animal, aren't
Yeah,
they?
short and stocky. They're pretty renowned for that.
Yeah.
And as you can see, they don't get, they're nowhere near as tall, for instance, as an Angus or a Hereford at this age.
This farm tour soon moves from the paddock to the homestead barbecue. Rodney Dunn is keen to try some Scottish Highland beef from one of the older animals.
So this one's 8 years old. Now the characteristics of it really come with the age of the animal. So the older we find, it even gets better. the older it is. And this is the perfect example of that wonderful marbling. Normally that would have to be achieved with grain-fed, but coming off pasture, we've got that beautiful marbling just simply because of the age.
It's a short, hot cook on the barbie for these very special steaks.
Starting to caramelise and the fat's bubbling, and it's just such a beautiful colour fat.
For Rodney Dunn, this Scottish Highland beef is a perfect fit for the restaurant.
One, it's local. Two, it's using an animal that has a long history and heritage and using it in a sustainable farming setup. At the end of the day, it has to be delicious.
And the steak from an 8-year-old steer does seem to win approval.
The smells is sensational.
So good.
It is really about that fat.
It's like butter. Tastes just like butter.
It does.
It's a good life in Tasmania's Derwent Valley for these well-looked after Scottish Highland cattle. But in the end, it's still a reasonably short life. Like all commercial beef operations, these appealing, fluffy animals will still end up on a dinner plate.
I didn't set out to breed cattle for beef, but I'm pretty passionate about making sure that the cattle stay happy. Therefore, I put them in a family unit and ended up with some offspring, and eventually we researched a market and found that we could actually make this a viable enterprise, which is what we've done.
Thanks for watching. That's all for today's show, and that's also a wrap for this season of A Taste of Landline. We hope you've enjoyed seeing the very best of Australia's food, fibre and farming, as much as we've enjoyed showing it to you. Don't forget our regular Landline is on Sundays at the new time of 12:30. I'll catch you then.